I found a site. This is an actual site. I'm actually in planning right now for five townhouses, five two-bedroom townhouses on this site right here. Whoops, it's a little bit. Let me move. So it's this site over here, which is 94 Station Street. This site is actually in council at the moment, and we've applied for a permit. When I actually looked at it, and we looked at, it actually doesn't let me zoom in. So let me change this so I can zoom in a little bit more. Okay, so that's the size. The first thing that I would do when I'm looking at this, if it comes to me, I mean, is to be able to determine what can I actually put on this site. Unless I know that, I can't even do my numbers. So I have to make sure that I can put something decent on this. Is the first thing that I would do. This is just plain Google Maps. I do nothing. I right click on this and I go measure distance. Click somewhere and it gives me a point, and I just measure it. I like this depth because this is about 50 meters depth, which is pretty good. I don't like the, whoa, take this over here, and I first thing I do is I measure the area. So that tells me that it's about 765 square meters. So which is quite good because all the other schematics that I've done on past projects and so on, I've always looked for sites that are at least 50 meters in depth. And also up front, I want them to be at least 16 or 18 meters. Now, sometimes you get sites that are 15 meters, but that's fine, which basically tells me that I can actually put something on this. So what we did was initially, we actually tried to put six on them. So six two-bedroom, two-bathroom, and a single car garage. And I wanted to show you what they look like initially. So let's just go, and so all I got from the architect as based on schematics was this. So we got this. We got one, two, three, four, five, six, and each one of them on the ground floor they were 61 square meters, 53, 53, 71, and the architect said, yeah, that should be fine. But anytime I want to do something, so I would do my numbers on these six. So if there are two betters and they are 128, so I would just go to the smart feasibility calculator. So let's say that's actually the new smart feasibility calculator. It's actually smarter now. It's actually a lot smarter than the SFC3, which is this one, which you guys have, which you already have access to as part of the course. But this is going to be updated to this very soon. I actually said that last month, but believe it or not, I've been working on it. I started off by tweaking one thing, then I thought, okay, it would be really nice if I could tweak that as well. So I started tweaking, and I had to reconstruct the whole thing from ground up because I've changed the way all the finance works and everything. But now what I've got is a really good version. So it's like an Apple iPhone 7. That's the best iPhone out there. So for unless something, will it run on Mac? Have you got Parallels? If you got Parallels, Nathan, it will run on Mac. I use Parallels as well, and the way I do that, the only thing is that I've got Excel versions which don't really protect me, so I package them into an installation file that only runs on the on a Windows. So if you got Parallels, it will run on Parallels. But this is still another week or so. The moment I fine tune this thing, it'll come to you. But what I wanted to show was this is what I've got. So I've got what I'm playing with is 128, 115, 115, 115, and I think this last one is 71 and hasn't got a number on it. But anyway, we have already now got. I'll show you what we are proposing to put in. So what we are currently going to put in looks something like this. This is what's going into council. So that's the we actually reduced it to 5 because we had a pre-lodgement meeting with the council during my due diligence that I had booked in with the with the vendor, that we need about 30 days due diligence on this. In fact, I actually went the 5th week. I mean, after the 30 days, I went 37 days because we didn't actually have all the answers. So I got this due diligence, so we got them designed now. That when we went to the council with some schematics, council said there's no way we'll let you put 6 on it. So we were trying to push the limits, but we've now been able to get away with 5 2-bedders, and the project still works, and that's what it would look like. So this is the first floor plan, and this is the ground floor plan. So single garage, unit, bedroom, ensuite, and on the top we've got another bedroom at the top, and the living's on the first floor. And for 4 units, like 2 3 unit 2 3 4 and 5, we actually managed to put a sky deck. So there's going to be a little decking at the top. There's going to be an area where people will go in, and there's like a lookout point, because when you cross the road from here, there's actually beach on the left side. So that's how we decided to go with this. And what I usually do is I find out all these legends that they've got. I don't know if they've put some numbers here, but I find these numbers where I can find out the total built area for all of these, so I can run my numbers on them. Now, some of the files that I've got here in my Dropbox didn't sync properly, so I can't actually open them. But they do send, so that's why one of the file that has the legend is not, I can't open it for some reason. But I'll show that to you some other time. But what I'm saying is that I would pick these numbers up, and let's say 128, 115, 115, and 115. I'll actually open the old feasibility that I did on this project, and it should show me the exact sizes. Just give me 1 second. Okay. So the initial feasibility that I did on this, something like this, was with these areas, and so that was just 1 unit. Sorry, that's the cost to build that thing. So I've got my numbers here. I'll figure out a way where I can, I know what I can sell them for. So in this scenario, I think on a worst case scenario, I think I can move them for 580,000 on an average. So I'll put those numbers in, and just make sure that I've got 5 here, and the purchase price is about 1.1 on this. So it's not that great, but it's pretty good for me. I mean, I've got some margin here on the build side, and those were the sizes that I initially went with, but those sizes have now been scaled back. So I think they would average about 130 or 127, but I'll just leave that here just for the sake of this example. And I'll come down here and I'll do some numbers and see what it looks like. So it shows me, I'll delete that, and there's going to be actually a video. I'll replace the video in the Smart Feasibility Calculator with the new video, and that would have this sheet, and this now takes care of some council contributions in Queensland as well. Earlier I was only going by the way it works in Victoria, so now I've actually incorporated that if you're in Queensland, that's how you calculate your council contributions, and I'll explain that when I explain it in the training video. So I'll look at this and I'll say, okay, I make 500,000, or maybe if I allow just 20,000. I'm not going into too much detail of how all of this works. I'm just putting in some numbers so that we can keep going. So these are the actual numbers. My numbers show that this project has a minimum of 400,000 in profit. So that's my initial due diligence. I'm looking at this block, I'm measuring the stuff, I'm zooming out, I'm looking at what are the things that are close by. The next step would be to actually get all kinds of sales data and put it on here to be able to get a good idea of what I can sell them for. So in this scenario, I did a lot of research I got the thing was that there was nothing really comparable that I could get, which was close enough for me to actually say, okay, this is what I'll go with. So we found a few other sites that were sold in the back lane and some there, and we arrived at that number. But usually, the correct method of arriving at the number is that you draw a table. This is a table from my 12 unit development, so it's just everything is just sitting there, and I'm playing with everything. So it tells me the 12 units are each one is about 137, 120 or in size. Then we've got garage, that's what the size is. The balcony, that's what the size is. The private open space, that's what the size is. And this is basically a sum excluding the private open space. The private open space is actually not built. So it could be your backyard, it could be a balcony, and I don't actually account that into the covered build area because I just don't account that in there because the cost actually kind of averages among the actual build area, the garage, and so on. So when I total this, it doesn't include private open space, but it includes the area, the garage, the balcony, and I've got a number here. Then what I did was I figured out a way where I could find that I know that the best ones I could sell for 670 and 660. And all I did was I then averaged the rate out by per square meter rate, and then I averaged the whole thing to one number so that I could multiply that with the total built area and arrive at a number which then gave me an average of 450,000. So that's how I would run my numbers to be able to get on it. And it is actually good that you do that because the moment your project actually goes to a valuer, they'll do exactly the same thing. I'm not. I wanted to show you this. I just recently got a valuation for. This is the valuation for the 12 townhouse development that we will start building sometime in November this year, and they've done exactly that. So if I just scroll down, they look at everything, they total everything, and then they allocate some stuff. Then they go down. They do some comparable sales. They split all the development costs and what they look like, and so on. And what they do is they find out the residual value of land, which is very similar to the one that you've already got in your feasibility, which is right here at the bottom. So this is your residual value of land. This is what they find out as well. But they've got a different method, and I've been trying to incorporate that into the project related site value for you guys, so you guys would have all of that. So this will all get automatically populated once you have there. Okay, just 1 second. I've got a message here. I have an opportunity to observe the rollout of an apartment and retail project which is at the marketing and pre-sale stage. The project is 100 kilometers from where I live. As way to involve in the project rollout, the 2 developers suggested I would find people interested in buying up the plant. That's great, Helena, and welcome to Property Development System. Typically come from within 20-kilometer radius, and the 210 prospects convert to buyers. Okay, what might be the easiest strategy for me to market the project? I'm not planning to spending money on marketing. Okay, Helena, I'll get back to this, and before we end today's session, I will address this question. If you've got anything else, I will answer that as well. But let me just finish this portion. So all these will be incorporated into the new revised financial feasibility application that you guys will get. But I just want to show you the square meter rate that these guys have come up with. And so this is value rate per square meter. This is how they are finding out these rates. They will and they go in a lot more detail. So they will, this is the site value. So they've said, we paid about 1390 a square meter for a 1906 square meter site. And there are some rentals. There was another table that I'm trying to find in the report which had all these details. which was for the built area, and they had a number there that they multiplied the total built area with in order to get the end value for them. So in this scenario, they actually my valuation was based on this. My valuation was 650, so I did my numbers on 650, and they came back with a valuation of 665, which was really good for me. So, and I did it so that I could, make an informed decision. And if my numbers work at a little bit lower value, I know that the project has some fat in it that it can absorb. So uh, this is something that all of you should be doing in order to do that. And once you get this version number 4, um, there'll be a lot more details, and the finance calculation is a lot accurate in this. But then again, these are all just basic numbers. There could be some variables, and it tells us how much developers equity contribution would it require for you to be able to do the project. But it has to be based on different assumptions, and I'll cover that in a different training video that explains how all of these things work. So um, let's look at this. When I'm actually looking at a site and I'm trying to make sure that this site works for me and the site's fine, I would look at the location, close to transport. This is all basic, but I would also check out the zoning density and find out what the zoning is. So on this, something like this, this is the Victorian site where we can put in the address here and find out what the zoning is. So this is just street and Aspendale, and each state has basically has a similar site where you can actually go and have a look, and it'll tell you what the zoning is, and then you have to check the council's town planning details of what you can do on that zoning. So if I would just wanted to click on basic report, I'll just click on view, and it'll tell me, okay, that's the zone. It's schedule 2 GRZ2, but as per Victoria, and what these zones actually do and what's available and not available. So you just click on the schedule part, and it'll show you what you can and cannot do, or what you require the permit for, and so on. So basically what I want to find out is what's the GFA here. So GFA is basically gross floor area. So usually in most sites, Queensland's got LMR, which is low medium density residential. They allow up to 60% of the land value. They allow you to build on 60% of the land value. Now, in some councils in Victoria, they've started pushing it back to 50% coverage, which is killing a lot of deals where developers have overdeveloped, and they've tried to put they basically spoil the neighborhood character. So they want to curb that. Even in this council that I work in, which is Kingston City Council, there's a special zoning which is residential zone 1, and that only allows 50%, and residential zone 2 allows 60%, and then there's also again residential zone 3 that only allows 50% again. So you have to be careful of where the site is. So if I'm trying to put offers on it, I always put at least 21 to 30 days due diligence. And sometimes I would be cheeky, and I admit that, because sometimes they won't give you more than 14 days due diligence, and sometimes 14 days is just not enough. So what I would do is I say, okay, 14 days due diligence, and just before, a day before the due diligence period is over, I'll call my solicitor and say, look, we need another week because we haven't got an answer. Otherwise, sorry, we are out of the contract. And 99% of the time, I will get that extra week. And sometimes I would say, if I still need that information and I can't make it work, I can still extend it for another week. So if you've got an agent involved who doesn't let you, get your 21-day required due diligence or whatever, you push on it and you sign on 14 days, but a day before you throw in the towel and say, look, we need another week or another couple of weeks, otherwise we are out. And once a vendor's actually got a sale, it is actually difficult to let go of that sale. But I only do it when I absolutely don't have that information, and I really need to know what's going on. But if I've got that information, I can go on conditional after that. But in this scenario, we actually extended it for a couple of weeks because we just couldn't stack these numbers. It just wouldn't work, and we tweaked the designs a few times and so on. But then eventually we decided that, look, I'm just going to go ahead and do this project. It's got 400,000, but yeah, it's a straight build. It's a cheap build. There's not too much in it, so we decided to go ahead and do this now. Apart from the zoning, other things that I would want to look at are the soil type. But look, the soil type actually comes in after you've got that. Mostly, in most scenarios, after you've actually got the planning permit, that's when you go and get your soil test done before you start getting ready for the building permit or the BA or the building approval. That's when soil type kicks in. But if there is some kind of a doubt, looking at construction in the area, looking at has it got rocks, like some areas in Melbourne, some areas are famous that they've got rock underneath. For example, Ringwood in Melbourne, I know that for sure that Ringwood's got a lot of rocks. And anything that I would do there, I would get the soil test done even before in my due diligence period, rather than wait right till the end. So, but something like this, I already know that there is a lot of development going on everywhere, and there's not a lot to worry about. But where it's kind of a catch-22 situation where you need to take that call on something like this, whether or not I should get a soil test done. If you see problems, if you heard of problems in the area, talk to this is all part of mitigating your risk, because you're trying to make sure that you don't get caught with something that you didn't account for earlier. So that's when the soil test actually kicks in. I would also look at size and shape of the site, which is rectangular, square, or trapezium, or some other kind of stuff, which something that can actually ruin what I'm trying to do. So I look at I don't know, some sites are smaller at the front and wider at the back. You got to make sure that if you try and okay, it's quite big, but it's only got a very small, it's got a narrow opening. And I'll actually give you an example of that. If you look at this side, by the way, this is my neighbor, and I've actually looked at it. This is where I live. This is my house here. My neighbor's got this funny kind of side. It's quite big. It's actually, I think it's decent side, about 800 square meters or something. But if you see that it's only got a very narrow opening here, and the council will not let you put that. Plus there is a setback. And if somebody bought this site and wanted to put 3 on it, they would be struggling because of the way the site is shaped. So you have to be careful of what you can and cannot do on a site based on its actual shape. So make sure you've looked at the shape, you looked at the side contours or sloping side. Sloping sides are even, I would rather prefer that it actually slopes from, it's higher up at the back and it slopes down, because the legal point of discharge, which is where the stormwater gets connected into and the sewer gets connected into, is usually in front of the site somewhere. And if the site's higher up and it rolls down, it's easier, because because basically then you don't need a pump to pump stuff uphill. If the side is opposite, for example, it's actually higher from here and actually slopes down at the back, towards the back of the side, it's going to be a problem for you to push the stormwater up, and you'll have to push the sewer up, basically it just adds to more costs. So you need to make sure that all these things, you look at all of these things before you get into it. Also, try and find out where the legal point of discharge is. This is very important. I had to spend $45,000 in extra variations for my project in Brisbane because the legal point of discharge that was actually right in front of my site had some other services going through, and I couldn't connect, and they had to go up the road to the next one, which cost me more money. And actually, not up the road, they actually had to go middle of the road, where means the work was done on Saturdays, the roads were blocked, and it was actually hooked up to a legal point of discharge that was right in the middle of the road. So it cost me $45,000 to do that. So you need to make sure that all these things, you find them where they are, and you can go to dial before you dig and all that. But what I actually encountered, nobody would have been able to do that, because we did look at dial before you dig. We found out where everything was. The civil engineer designed it to be connected to that legal point of discharge, but in the end, it has some services that were right there in the middle, and the new stormwater could not be connected to it. So it had to be run up the road, or sorry, it had to be run in the middle of the road. So those are some things that I would look at, and always remember, if there is if the site is slightly sloping and you're trying to put townhouses on it, you will have to add retaining walls in order to hold those townhouses up. And every retaining wall can easily add 10 to 15,000 or 10 to 12,000 per townhouse to the cost. So those things have to be, you must remember them. You must make sure that you have actually looked at all of those things. Then you've got another thing that I would look at is the vegetation. If there are any significant trees on the side, what kind of trees are they? I come across trees all the time. In fact, now I've got an arborist, and sometimes we, we look at a site, we'll spend $600-700 with the arborist, only to find out that tree, they will not let us move it, and there's no point doing that. So I've spent in the last couple of years, if I just look at what I've spent on some sites that didn't come through, it would be close to $35,000. And 25,000 of that actually was only on one side, where we had an option for about a year, and we were trying to stack everything, we were trying to do everything, but we couldn't. But we were out of pocket 25,000. But that was a major development. It was a massive $30 million build, with apartments, with student accommodation. It had, we had a layer of commercial, we had a layer of retail and everything. But between that and other projects, we spend $500-600 here and there, then another $700-800 here and there. We look at sites just to make sure that the site works and so on. But we every time that happens, there's a new situation that comes forth, and I haven't dealt with that situation. And I work with a builder, and he's been in the industry for 30 years, and he still comes across situations that he's never dealt with before. So every site is different, and but these are the common, most important things that you got to look for when you get into a project. So there's no project, or there's no developer, or there's no builder that will tell you that they know all the possible scenarios. Now, if someone's been in the industry for 50 years and have been doing that every year after year, and has worked on different kinds of sites, different kinds of developments, then there are chances that they would have come across something similar or not. But it is very difficult for any one person to say that I know all the various combinations that can happen. So those are some things. There are contamination issues. We came across a site in Seaford recently, and although they had like a preliminary contamination environmental survey done on that, and but I didn't find that that survey to satisfy, because it used to be a petrol station 6 years ago, and after that they got it cleaned up and everything, and they were trying to sell the site. So I decided not to pursue that site further because it already has contamination in there. So contaminated sites actually stay on the market for longer. However, people who know what to do with it would actually make them work. But it's a process. It could take you a year to decontaminate the stuff, because where they constantly come in and they keep churning the soil and everything. And the reason I know a little bit about contamination is because at one time we joined forces with another person who was into land remediation. So if you look at this on my website, under services we have Maven remediation, where we go in and we get the initial report by consultant. We do all kind of testing and so on. So we were trying to gear up to be able to offer remediation as a service. And we were joining hands with this guy who's done all this kind of work in WA, and but it hasn't really worked out that much, so it just stays on the site, and we didn't pursue it because I'm obviously not capable of handling something like that. It was that person who was an expert at this, and he was planning to move to Melbourne from Perth, and we were going to do stuff together and so on, but apparently they haven't decided. So that's where it's at. So I understand how remediation works. I understand what's involved, but it could mean 6 months. It could mean 2 years. And people who know how these things work can actually get some really key sites. But I don't recommend anybody starting out to get into this, because it's you never know with these things, and you never know with the environmental department, and you never know what the council may force you to do. So just make sure that you stay away from contaminated size, period. Unless you've got somebody who can look at them and guide you what can be done, or if the site's got enough potential that'll make you a multi millionaire if you pull it off. That's when, I will look at my upside of what I can get into, and if the upside is huge and the risk is something that I can mitigate or accommodate or contain or limit in some way, shape or form, that's when I would actually go for it. Another thing that you have to be careful of is parking issues. Parking issues are all about what are your parking requirements going to be based on the actual size. So as a thumb rule, if you've got two bedders or a single bedder, in some cases, if you got a single bedder and it's right next to a train station, you can get dispensation, because I did 16 apartments in Fitzroy in Melbourne, and there were 14 two-bedders and 2 single-bedders. And we got away with getting a dispensation for 2 single-bedders because the site was from walking distance to everything. It had a walk score of about 96-98%. And we got a dispensation for not having car parks. But as a general rule, if you do a one-bedroom townhouse or a one-bedroom apartment, you will be asked to provide at least one car park for it. And if you're doing a two-bedder, there's also one car park. But the moment it goes over 3 bedders to 4 bedders, it becomes double garage, and you've got to have 2 car parking. Not only that, the way they design it, I'll just open the design again. Where is my design gone? So something like this, no, not really. Okay, let's look at this. Something like this, they would always mark where, this is the ground floor, isn't it? So see here, there's a visitor car parking requirement. So apart from having a single garage for all of them, we've got to allow for a visitor car parking. And not only that, what they want is, they don't want these cars to back into the road. They want them to come out with the front of the car first. They basically want all the cars to come out head first. So and they don't want anybody to reverse into the road. which causes accidents and so on. So they would actually allocate something like a visitor car park, or like a turning circle, or somewhere where these cars can actually reverse out and move out, with the front of the car exiting first. So these are all the things that are important to look at. So if there is not enough room, so the reason that we actually lost the sixth unit in this development was because there was no room for the sixth unit to actually move out. I'll just see, because I wanted to show you all the things that we tried to do with that site. Because we tried to actually put a turntable outside the sixth design. This is us trying to push the limits. I think this is the one? No, this is some other property. Just bear with me 1 second. I didn't plan on showing this to you, but I really want to show this to you because we did try and push the boundary and put a turntable there, and the councils had nothing doing. We can't let you do that. I think this is the one. No, I mean, these were some other plans that we were trying to push the 6 for, and then we tried to put a turntable here, so this car would actually move out on this turntable, and this turntable would actually move so this car would get out. So we tried to do all these things to it, and that's the legend we got, so that I could do some numbers on these things. So, but yeah, we got many of these designs on this site because we played around with it a fair bit before we decided that we're going to go with 5 of them on this. So this is in council right now. So going back to what I was saying, when you got these, you've got to make sure that your site actually allows for all of these things. So if this site is actually, for example, if this site was about 14 meters, my size, the width of these townhouses would have been reduced further, which basically means that they would have been even smaller, and I may have decided to put 4 on them. So these are the little things that put pressure on the site in order to maximize them. And if I can put 4 on them, then at 1.1 mil, this project will not stack up. That means I'm paying too much for the land in that scenario. So that's the issue with the parking and what you need to allow for. So it's 0.75 bays per unit for apartments, which are less than 60 meters square, and then 1.0 bays for apartments that are greater than 80 meters squares. Then they've got different, every council has different criteria for parkings. Like if you go into the commercial space, it becomes 4 car parks per 100 square meters. So that's why when where we were looking at some sites where we wanted to do mixed use development, we wanted to have a layer of commercial and so on. Every time we tried to put a layer of commercial, what killed the project was the amount of parking that we have to allow the moment we've got a certain square meterage of commercial area, because then I've got to allow for 4 car parks for every 100 square meters, which is another problem. So if I can't accommodate that many number of cars, that means I can't have a commercial there. And so sometimes the sites would allow you to actually go up to 4 levels or 6 levels and so on. But when you realize that, okay, I'll have apartments up to 6 levels, which basically means, oh gosh, I can put maybe 40 apartments there, and then you'll say, okay, how many 2-bedders and how many 3-bedders? And the moment you start taking those numbers out and you say, okay, for that many 2-bedders, I need X amount of car parks, and for that many 3-bedders, I need X amount of car parks. And then you don't want to dig a basement, because the basement would add to the cost of construction. And then you start playing with the car stackers. The project that I did in Fitzroy, the 16 apartments, we actually put a stacker in for 14 car parks. So for 14 single car stacker, we'd actually had to put that in, and which actually costed us about $15,000 per car spot, and that was only for the stacker. So there was other bits of engineering that had to be done, because we had to dig a pit out and make sure that that all these things are taken care of. When I'm evaluating a site, I would also look at the setback. So if the setback is here, it's very easy to actually find out what the setbacks are, and you can do that. Just click on that measure distance, and I don't measure the distance with this one, but I actually just draw a line and see what the setbacks are coming to, and that will give me an idea of what I can do or I can push. So for example, in this scenario, this one is a little bit the setback is a little bit I mean, this side has more less setback than the one that this side has currently, which basically tells me that I can push it forward when I'm trying to design my when I'm actually trying to design my townhouses here. So setbacks kill the project. If you've got issues with setbacks, it's the council may not allow you to get there. Not only that, if they won't even allow you to have a second crossover sometimes. There's an issue going on with the 12 townhouse development side with the council regarding a new crossover. That's another problem. But those are the problems that can be solved in this. So in this industry, you can solve any problem given time and money. So and the biggest thing that you have to make sure is that you don't waste that time and money, because for developers the most important thing is time and money. So yeah. Another thing that can kill the project are the easements, special restrictions, and and the way to find out the easement is actually, the easiest way to do that is actually to look at the section 32 if you're in Victoria, or a disclosure statement if you're in Queensland, and they must have a copy of the title, the plan of the initial subdivision that took place, and those things actually show you where the easements are, where the setbacks will be, and if the property's got a covenant. For example, the house that I actually live in, it's got a covenant where I can only build the full construction's got to be brick veneer, for example. And that means the first floor and the ground floor, all of the building, the exterior of the building has to be brick veneer. And these days, to save on construction costs, builders and developers, they're all building the ground floor to be in bricks. The exterior is all in bricks, but the first floor is all rendered. And but in where I live, it's a different story. It's got to be bricks from top to bottom. So there could be a covenant where you can't, where there's restriction on the size of the subdivision that you could have. There could be all sorts of things. So those are the things that you have to look at in a disclosure statement or a section 32 that tells you about all those details. Okay, traffic flow again. If it's a high density development, I mean, even for a site like this, I would have a traffic report that tells them, okay, it can accommodate 5 units. There'll be 5 cars, and there's not going to cause a traffic jam here. So for smaller developments, it's not an issue. For bigger developments or where the density starts increasing, you got to have a traffic report, and you have to make sure that they can come in, come out, and so on. So some sites would be, for example, if this site had a roundabout right in front of it. Now I have come across sites where, for example, this was the site and the roundabout was right in front of it. Now imagine if I'm putting 6 or 10 3-bedroom townhouses on it. Each house would have 2 car parks, and they've got to come out, and they come out straight at the roundabout. So there will be a traffic issue, and the traffic engineer might say, look, I can't allow more than 6 cars on this location, which basically means you go either 3 3-bedders, or you go 6 2-bedders, and see if the numbers work. Although the site may allow may allow you to put more, but the traffic is going to be an issue, and that's why what the town planners and the architects call a site like that is that the site's locked. That means that there's no other way to unlock the site, and in those scenarios, you've got to make sure that you cover your backside so that you don't get caught out into something that that something's got a roundabout right in front of the site and you're thinking of putting in a high density development there. Your traffic engineer will actually kill you, because you would need that report even before you lodge for DA, because they might even ask you for it if you don't lodge the traffic report, and the traffic report would then say we can't allow X amount of cars on this block. So that and traffic volume is the same. Site access and egress is exactly the same. How you can come in and come out of the site, which is similar to what I just explained. The council doesn't want you to reverse out into the street. They want you to come out head first. So those are the things that you got to look for. And then the council developers contribution, that's actually not really related to the site, but if you are going high density and the size of the sewer is not enough to accommodate for that, the council may push the cost of that sewer upgrade to you. Or for example, something like this, let's say there are two crossovers here. I'll show you another example here. So this is the 12 channel site that I'm working on at the moment. Hopefully we'll start construction in November. So this is a double block, and the double block's got these two, and we've got six on. We've got a permit for 6 on one side and 6 on another side. So see that this is a 1900 square meter site altogether. So now at the moment the current crossover is right here, and another crossover is right here. So the way we've designed the site is actually this crossover is closed, and then there's a crossover right here, and there's a crossover right here. So I've got to close this at my cost. The old ones have to be closed and the new ones have to be created at my cost. Now this is council's land, but I've been asked, because I'm the developer, I've been asked to foot the bill for making sure that the crossover is fine. So those are the things that can cause you trouble. The trouble that I'm having right now is that there's actually a no standing zone somewhere right in front of the site. There's a sign there, and all it is that the no standing, it's only like a 6-inch or 8-inch away. Like I could move the pole 8 inches up the road, and it works for my site. Now the council gave us approval for the site, but now they're raising some issues with it, but we're trying to sort it out, so it should be all right. So these are the things that you would want to make sure that you cover in your due diligence. Other things could be, if you're trying to do there are other things that come into due diligence as well when you are trying to find out, when you're trying to do a JV with the landowner. You need to make sure that they haven't got too much, they haven't got a lot of mortgage on the land, or anybody who comes in the project with you hasn't got too much debt, and so on. So these are the things that you have to be careful of when you're assessing a site.